Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Paul. Welcome. Let's see if this is all popping on here. Here to get so I can see people when they ask me questions and all that jazz. So if you're walking on, welcome. How you doing? I'm Dr. Paul. Welcome on Instagram. Welcome on Periscope. I am just trying to log in my cameras. We're going to be talking about the healthy mind. So if you don't mind, you just got to wait till all these cameras pop up, and then we'll get going. And if you ask any questions, remember you can always reach me. Just put a comment in the box, and to let me know you have a question of what I'm talking about, and I can read it right away, and then I can answer your question. So that's good. So what we're going to be doing is the healthy mind. We've been doing 3 segments. We did the first week we did the rational mind. The second week we did the wise mind, and then this third week we're on the emotional mind. And the emotional mind, for many people, is probably the most difficult. And some people I thought it was the wise mind, because the wise mind connects both rational and emotional together, so you can have a balanced thing. So today we're going to be working on more of just we're going to be finishing up the emotional mind. Yesterday we talked about the different systems. Before that we talked about the limbic system, and then yesterday we talked about the vagus nerve and the different parts of the brain, and how now we're getting ready to go back inside the body. Remember, the vagus nerve is like a second brain, and remember, you can always go back to yesterday's program, so you can always catch up. Remember, you can always look at it on my YouTube channel. It's Dr. Paul Dyer Grandmaster, and you can go to my YouTube channel. You can see all the recordings. You can also catch some of my podcasts there. I do a podcast every week called Bridges Live, and then we'll get back into that later. So let's jump right into it. So when we talk about the healthy mind and the emotional mind, we're getting back into the emotional mind. We're getting inside the body. Remember, one of the things is understanding the science of the direction of where you're going. Good morning, good morning. Hi, good morning. Good morning. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. So we're gonna talk about, so we get inside, we have the endocrine system. Endocrine system. So with the endocrine system, now we're getting into where our hormones, right? Because we have remember, hormones. Hormones are the signal. They're the signal throughout the body. And I'm not going to get into what the factors of, good morning, I don't want to get into the factors of what the endocrine system is, because we have the pineal gland, right? Oh, we have the pineal gland, we have the pituitary, we have the hippocampus, we have the thymus, we have the pancreas, right? And we have the adrenal gland. So all these glands produces these hormones. And these hormones are the messengers, right? The reason why I put massagers. um, there are the messengers, right? And the reason why we're talking about them, the now we're getting inside the, we call the cellular, the lower part of inside the body, right? Because once you think something, once you feel something, once you believe you think you know something, whatever, the emotional part of the mind, right? That emotional side between the left side, the right side of the brain, this side of the hemisphere, this other side of the hemisphere. Once you start thinking that once you get into the emotional side, we have what brain parts, the limbic system of the brain, what kicks off, right? The amygdala, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, right? Those parts of the brain fire more than the others. Then it says, then you develop this, and then get into the endocrine system, and these have these hormones that are producing, right? So once it starts producing hormones, it sends a message. Now, we talked before about what is the message that your body's sending. Say, it doesn't matter what it is, good thought, bad thoughts. As long as you know the thoughts that it is sending, and now it's getting inside your body, and this is how it affects your body. This is how we become unhealthy and sick. This is how we become, we call moody, and our bodies start to feel uncomfortable. So after we get in, after our hormone starts producing, and we get into all these endocrine system, which is, goes into your different glands, right? The pancreas, the thyroid, the pineal gland, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the adrenal gland, all that starts producing. So now, after that, we come down into what you call neurons. Neurons. Now, neurons is also what they are. They are transporters. And then once we know that they also have what you call signals, they are what you call, they fire. Now, the brain, if most people don't know, if we're starting from the brain is about 3 pounds, right? But it has over 100 billion neurons that that signal out of its signal, right? It's firing on all accounts. It is signaling out its signal. So those are neurons. You know, out of 100 billion neurons, the brain actually has about 10,000 new connections all the time. So now I want to talk to you about, when we talk about connection, when we're talking about what our body is doing and not doing, we have to understand that we are here as a receiver and a transmitter. And to be a receiver, you are getting things in. Remember, that's the information. The brain is receiving information. Your body is that's your body receiving information. It is receiving all information from all over the place. It is just gathering. It gathers from, now when you talk about the brain, you're gathering from the, remember, I want to keep you what you call a frontal lobe person. And that means you're staying consciousness, right? So those that's all big word. Consciousness. You want to stay in a consciousness action, picking up all this vibration, energy, the morphic field, all these signals through your 5 senses, right? And then you have the 5 E's. What can block your 5 senses? Go back to the other things for your 5 E's. And so if your taste, touch, smell, hearing, right? All those senses, they're firing, they're picking up information. Vibration from the field, right? Because we live in a field. We live in amongst of all the fields. So this is now, when we get into neurons, and this is where one of these neurons, it is so important for us. Now, mirror neurons, right? Mirror neurons. The mirror neuron, if you have any questions, again, just put it in your comments, and so I can read it, and I can get to it. Let me see what I have. Good morning. My wife always likes to come on and says, good morning, husband. She is out doing her thing. And I like to say, you know, my wife's a nurse, so I know all you people out there who are on the front lines of this, and it is a battle. It is a battle. And when we feel like we're in a battle or in warfare or in a conflict or in a situation, I talked about this before, these are these words that we pick up. These are these words that we are concerned with. These are the words that trigger different parts of our brain, right? Remember, the brain's a processor and a producer. So if you're triggering different parts of your brain about these things and taking care of people, making sure people are healthy, happy, and safe, right? You're out there, first responders. I mean, there's so many people, there's so many avenues that has been overlooked for so long, for so many years, that we have taken for granted. We've always thought money was our big thing. We always thought, you know what, it's about taking care of others. I've always said, you know, if 2020, and I said this in January, if 2020 is going to be anything, let this be the year of service. Let this be the start of servitude to everything in our human race. And this virus has made us, developed us into service. Good morning, how you doing? We are here to serve others to the best we can. And I'm giving you the healthy mind so you can develop a service. So you can understand how you're serving yourself. Understand what your thoughts are, how it affects your body internally. We just got a map, right? And I'm just going to open up the page. It's a map. It's a regular map. Look at all those lines, okay? The lines, that's just highways, roads. Your brain, your body, has the same amount of lines. It has the same, if you want to travel from here to here, you have to understand where you're going. So you have to read your map. I am developing what you call your map of emotions in what your cells are doing and what your neurons are doing. So back to the neurons. So you have mirror neurons. So in short, mirror neurons fire everything you see, touch, hear, and smell. They've been found that if you see someone who hugs someone, while you watch a movie, when you see someone who's hugging someone, your body feels like it's being hugged. It responds to it. It's actually so empathetic that it actually makes you feel good. Your brain does not know it's not being hugged. Now, the only way your brain says it's not being hugged, it has to send out a different signal, because if you're so empathetic with something else, you feel the compassion in your body. You feel the hug within your body. So your cells are firing just like you're being hugged. So when you pass by something that isn't so good, your body responds to it anyway. When you do something, you fire someone else's mirror neurons. That's why if you smile, someone else will smile. If you frown, someone else will frown. The body just picks it up, mirroring, so it produces mirror neurons, and it fires the same way if you were doing it. Just like if someone was touching someone else's hand or gets his hand cut off. That's why some of these movies or some of these game systems has been found out to be totally dangerous for kids. Why? Because their brains are not well developed, and they're being it's taking away from their sympathetic apathy. They're creating apathy, and it decreases empathy, right? Because they're playing these games, and now with these virtual, the body does not know it's not real. So it's creating, so it's like, oh, I'm not dead, so I get desensitized. The mirror neurons, it fires up here in the frontal cortex. It fires, it does with the cerebral, the things you see. It fires in the things you touch and smell. These things are firing all the time. So when we talk about how we're going to be better, one of the things we have to understand is that there are cells who are mimicking everything else in the body. These are the mirror neurons. Do your own reading, do your own research. It's like when you see someone yawn. If you see someone yawn, the power of suggestion. Well, it's a little bit different than the power of suggestion, because the power of suggestion works on a different part of the brain. Actually, the power of suggestion works in the amygdala. That's why when you do hypnosis, it creates a different action in the brain, and that's part of that reptilian brain. But the mirror neurons is more upfront, and it's more on a conscious base. This is why when we're firing this 100 million neurons in the body, and we're developing all these connections, it's happening because we're being pulled in. So there's so many things that are affecting this information vibration in this field that's throughout the body, that see, you're not alone. Just like the road map, There's tons of lines of information and ways to get down to your pancreas, your adrenal glands, your pineal gland, your pituitary gland, and that's your endocrine system. That's your hormones and your messengers. That's all coming in through the signal, right? That all comes in through the brain. That all comes in through how the brain is picking up. So when people, and I believe it says change the way you see things. It will help you change the way you do things. That is true. Performing a practice, training, and action will help you change your life. Because if you just want to change your thoughts have so many different roads to get to different parts of your body that affects your organs. This is why, I talk about when we do the martial sciences, when we talk about movement, when we talk about action, when we talk about breath, when we talk about balance, we talk about balance on all three fronts, right? You have the balance of the mind, balance of the spirit, balance of the physical, balance on the soulful. So these are the balances we're creating. This is the understanding how the lines are flowing with the breath control, how the breath understands, connects in with your body, how it follows the line down. So if someone's doing like Reiki, and I do Reiki too, I teach a lot of different modalities, but I teach the understanding why Reiki works. I teach understanding why massages work. I teach the cellular understanding and the physics of why this medicine works, or why this stone works, or why the moon is vibrating you this way because of your birthday. I teach you why, right? Because understanding the why is so much more important than just doing. Doing is great, but if you don't understand the why, then you're just throwing shotguns in the wind, right? I'm a hunter and I love to shoot birds, and we use a shotgun. Most people know a shotgun has different pellets. But if you don't change your choke, meaning that if you don't direct your pellets to the bird, and your shots are going everywhere, you're not doing anything, right? So you have to be what you call intentional. You have to be purposeful. How can you be purposeful if you don't understand? You don't have to know it like maybe I know it, but you have to at least understand how it's working, right? That is complete understanding. Understand how it works. This way it helps you when you are doing your practice. My daughter, we used to do Bridges Live with Hope, right? And some of you can go back and listen to those podcasts on iHeart and iTunes and Applecast and anywhere you pick up your. So we have Bridges Live with Hope. Well, recently I have my grandfather, and we have all our grandchildren being born and children having birthdays. But my daughter Hope had developed this thing. She says, she's about ready to have her baby. Congratulations. And people who are having babies and people who are going through this time. But she says, I want to do something that's positive. So she developed what you call this Instagram page called, oh my God, I just drew a blank. Good Vibes Saves Lives. And I'll put the link in below you. Good morning, how you doing? I like to say understanding your body. So Good Vibes Saves Lives. So when nurses, and I just saw a nurse come on, when nurses are in the hospital and they're doing their work, and when you're working with other people, this also helps with communication with companies and people. This is why when you understand what the endocrine system does and how your hormones are working and the mirror cells are doing, when you're working and you are giving out good, teachers too, when you're in a classroom and you're doing, when you honestly believe internally what you're doing, you are producing good stuff in other people. If you go to work angry and still do your job, just because you do your job on a physical level, there's also a different morphic field level that you're also transmitting. And that's when the mirror cells come in, right? The mirror neurons come in. And that's when the hormones changes its direction between the pineal gland, the pituitary, the thymus, the pancreas, the adrenal gland. And then it also affects the limbic system, where you're talking about the hypothalamus, the miglia, the hippocampus. We're talking about a whole system being affected because you are changed internally. Because you know what you have internally. You know exactly where this is going. You know exactly what your body's doing. You know exactly what the hormones are producing different tissues in the blood flow, right? Because it sends a signal through the tissues and into the bones and into the marrow. Healing works. I'll go into more of wrapping this all out tomorrow. I'd like to say thank you for everyone who is joining me here on Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, and in YouTube Live. I do this every morning at 7 a.m. except for weekends, Monday through Friday. Remember that if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, just please put it in the comment box or where you watch this from, and then say thank you, or say, hey, I would like for you to talk more about this. Next week, we're going to be talking about communication between, we call external communication between internal communication. Our language system gets misunderstood, so, and that's how it affects our body. So we're going to be going over a lot of this. Again, be well, be safe, be happy. Make sure you do your exercises, your meditation, and your prayers, because, again, this is about the morphic field information and how it changes your mirror neurons. Do well, be safe, be happy.